Why explaining yourself destroys your power. The unseen collapse behind every justification. Have you ever noticed that the more you explain yourself, the less you're respected? That the more you try to clarify your intentions, your logic, your truth, the more people seem to question them. You're not imagining it. There's a hidden power leak buried in your need to explain. And if you don't close it, it will quietly erode your influence in every conversation, every negotiation, every relationship. Because in the world of power, every explanation is a surrender. By Estad. Explanation is submissive by nature. When you explain yourself, you're not just sharing information, you're shifting the dynamic. You're telling the other person, I need you to understand me. I care what you think. I want your approval. That might sound emotionally intelligent. It might sound mature. But in the language of power, it's a subtle collapse. To explain is to kneel. Because power does not seek to be understood. It assumes understanding or moves without it. Power says, this is what I said, this is what I did, this is what I am. And then it falls silent. Every explanation lowers your status. In a courtroom, who explains? The defendant. The one on trial. The one whose behavior must be justified, defended, dissected. That's exactly what you do every time you start explaining yourself. You agree to be on trial. And now the other person becomes the judge. Their understanding becomes the metric. Their opinion the standard. You just handed them the frame. You gave them the power to define the conversation. In doing so, you've lost. Because real influence doesn't operate in someone else's frame. It creates the frame. Explanation signals uncertainty. Most people think that if they explain clearly, they'll appear more rational, more intelligent, more persuasive. But here's the paradox. The more you explain, the less people believe you're sure of yourself. Why? Because certainty is silent. It doesn't chase. It doesn't defend. It doesn't need validation. The moment you start justifying, it looks like you're asking permission to exist. And if you're asking, you don't have power, you're begging for it. That's why true leaders, dominant personalities, and strategic minds rarely explain. They declare, then move forward. They let others scramble for understanding. Silence is not weakness, it's precision. You will always be misunderstood. No matter how articulate you are, people will interpret you through the lens of their own fears, biases, and insecurities. So, stop trying to control that. Silence is presence. Silence, when used intentionally, is not absence, it's presence. It creates tension. And tension holds attention. People reveal themselves. When you say nothing, people lean in. They project. They guess. They reveal more about themselves than you ever revealed about you. That's power. Explaining teaches people they can shape you. Every time you explain yourself, you train people. You teach them that if they question you, you'll comply. That your position is flexible. That your boundaries are up for debate. And once they learn that, they'll keep pushing. Because you gave them a silent permission. You can influence how I present myself. And once someone else can shape your behavior, you are no longer in control. Perception logic. We live in a world of perception, not logic. People don't follow the smartest, the kindest, or even the most qualified. They follow the ones who appear the most powerful. And nothing weakens that perception faster than over-explaining. Because explanation invites analysis. Analysis invites doubt. Doubt destroys the illusion. Real power doesn't explain, it projects. It lets presence do the talking. When you walk into a room, the one who controls it isn't always the loudest. It's the one who doesn't rush to be understood. The one whose calm silence feels like a statement. Control is in the frame, not the volume. Stay still. When someone challenges you and you stay still, don't correct. When someone misreads you and you don't correct them, offer silence. When someone accuses you and you offer silence instead of defense, control doesn't mean dominating the conversation. It means deciding what the conversation is about. And that comes from posture, not performance. That's not avoidance. That's power. Because you're refusing to be pulled into their world. You're staying in yours. Master the urge to explain. This is your task now. Train yourself not to explain. When you're misunderstood, let them wonder. When they question your decision, hold your ground. When they demand an answer, give stillness. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not every opinion needs a reply. Not every challenge deserves your energy. In fact, the more silent you are, the more powerful you appear. Because the loudest person in the room is rarely in control. It's the one who doesn't flinch, the one who waits, the one who speaks only when necessary, and when they do, the room stops moving. Silence turns into presence. Presence turns into power. Presence is not achieved by saying more. It's achieved by saying less and meaning more. Power doesn't chase understanding. It commands interpretation. And it does so not by over-explaining but by standing firm. So the next time you feel the itch to clarify, to justify, to beg for comprehension, pause. Ask yourself, who holds the power in this moment, me or the one I'm explaining to? If it's not you, close your mouth. Reclaim the frame. Let silence stretch. Let the mystery grow. Let your restraint become your strength. Because in the end, power doesn't explain. Power doesn't ask. Power doesn't chase. Power simply is. And when you learn to stop explaining, you stop reacting. When you stop reacting, you start leading. And when you lead, the world begins to bend to your presence,